Hello, everybody. Welcome to F1 Down Under. My name's Heidi,
I'm Matt.
and we're going to talk about the Bahrain Grand Prix. So, lap one was pretty exciting, I
Well,
think.
it's back to Grand Prix, isn't it? And classic first corner incident, I think.
Yeah, I'm surprised we didn't get more collisions than we did.
It gets pretty tight in that turn one.
I'm,
Um,
I'm surprised the first 10 cars got through.
yeah, I think it was interesting to see who got off the line quickly. I thought Perez got off pretty quick. That made a difference to his race.
The Ferraris both got off the line quick.
Yeah, I think it was a shame. The Stroll and Hulkenberg and Bottas tangling kind of put a dampener on all of their races.
Yeah. But apart from that, I think it was a very clean start,
Yeah,
which is very surprising for Bahrain. And no safety cars.
no, that's right. I mean, there was a safety car through the whole race. So,
only a yellow sector when Logan Sargent went off the track briefly, but he managed to get it on the track again.
yeah,
So it
yeah.
was weird not having a safety car,
Very clean, yeah, very clean race.
which is good for the drivers. So let's talk the strategy for everybody.
Well, that's what it did come down to. I mean, there was some good overtaking on the track first. I thought
Yes.
Russell did a good move.
Carlos Sainz over Charles Leclerc. Very good overtaking. Clearly, no team orders there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Science has got nothing to lose, has he? So, yeah, that's
No.
good to see. And then obviously it went into the pit stop. So, what do you think around that?
So the undercut was clearly the most powerful move.
Yeah, I think you pointed out to me, I think Norris was late going in, but he managed to sort of survive,
Yeah.
whereas he was one of the late stoppers. Perez stopped after Russell and came out behind him, even though he went in front of him. So that really showed the overcut wasn't the best.
No. One lap can make a difference. So Russell pitted on lap 12 and Hamilton pitted on lap 13 and he came out behind his own team. Hamilton came out behind. So
Yeah,
whereas Norris pitted, I think, about 3 laps later, but he managed to create a gap big enough that he was still in
yeah.
front of Piastri.
The only one who could afford to do an overcut and not worry about it was Max because he was so far out in front. Let's face it.
Yeah, the undercut was definitely worth it on this race.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was also interesting that the couple of the teams kept the soft tyres at the end rather than going two sets of hards. The car's a lot lighter. There wasn't the drop off in the tyre in those soft tyres that they were sort of expecting. I think because you've got less weight in the car. So that bodes well that the tyres hold up once you get into the race.
So, unexpectedly, I think the FIA has done a really good job in terms of its job so far with the race one incident. It was just a race one incident, but
Turn one incident. Yeah.
term one incident. But for me, I thought there was a couple of things that happened that necessarily should have got a penalty, such as Charles went off, I think, about 5 times before lap 10 and didn't even get black or white flags or a 5-second penalty. So
I mean, it was hard. His brakes were locking up. Whether that mitigated the circumstances, I don't know.
that's
But
still not excuse for track limits, I think. But
oh,
the rules are rules.
harsh, harsh. No, I don't. Anything that surprised you about the race, particularly, other than not FIA not giving penalties?
Well, seeing how Lance Stroll finished 20, started off 20th and ended up 10th, that was very good driving from Lance Stroll.
Yeah, I think he actually. I know he has his detractors, but he had a solid race, really getting back into 10th from last place after that first lap incident. I
Yeah,
mean, you could argue, did he cause that first lap incident? I don't know, but he certainly recovered really well.
he did a very good recovery drive for Aston Martin.
And I think, Perez started in fifth, finished second, and yes, he's got the Red Bull underneath him, but I think it is a good reminder about what a driver, he can actually drive.
I think Science What Driver of the Day, well deserved, and that
Yeah,
was really good.
yeah. Science has got nothing to lose now. That was obvious when he pushed Charles in that overtake. He's got to just drive for himself, and he's a clever driver. His overall race craft, I think, is probably better than Charles
Yeah.
personally. Individual lap pace, not so much, but yeah, he's a clever driver. So, what do you think to the top three?
There, who are the teams or drivers who I would kind of expect to be in the top three?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Red Bull. Everyone was saying at the beginning they were going to be good, and they were. I mean, 20 seconds, 25 seconds in front of Carlos Sainz. That's a big gap. But I think Ferrari they were third and fourth, so that kind of says that they're pretty. They would certainly get the best of the rest. The rest was a bit more mixed up.
Yeah, we've got Mercedes in fifth and seventh,
Yeah, and then the McLaren was sixth and eighth, so they were really kind of jumbled up. And then,
Aston Martin in ninth and tenth. So I feel like that battle for maybe third could be in the Constructors' Championship could be quite close
yeah,
if
and
it continues in this path.
it was really close. I think at the bottom end, the Alpine were. I mean, we knew they weren't the best from testing, but I thought they were pretty poor. I mean, they weren't last ultimately because the problems that Bottas and Logan Sargent had. So I can't think that Pierre and Esteban are going to be too happy about that.
No. So, and if you look at Haas and like Kevin Magnussen here in Haas, he had a really good race. He was 12th.
Yeah, I mean, the Haas looked okay. Obviously, Nico Hulkenberg did a good qualifying lap, but they looked reasonable through the race, which was where they struggled last year. I think Joe Guan Yu came in at 11 for Sauber, so I think there's a whole range. That midfield is just going to be so chaotic this season. So it'll be really interesting to see how
On
that pans out.
and on different circuits, I think it's going to really mix up the field as well.
Yeah.
You have one bad race and you accidentally crash out.
So what do you think we learned for going straight into Jeddah this week?
Oh my goodness. I think anything could happen. I the field is so close looking at both qualifying and the race. If the driver is not feeling it on that day,
Yeah,
you can lose that track position.
I think what I saw was both Mercedes and Williams were overheating, so they've obviously got to do some work around widening that up. Hope to get more air in. That made both of those teams not perform as well as they could. So I think hopefully they've learned that lesson. That'll put them back into the mix. I think the other thing that I learned from this race was that don't write off Perez. I think a lot of people are sort of writing him off as that he's waiting to be just cut from Red Bull once Daniel or someone else starts performing. But Daniel and Yuki were squabbling a little bit. That RB didn't do as
Um,
well as everyone was thinking it was going to do. So I think they've got to be careful because that could just mean that Perez has a good season and
yeah.
stays in the seat.
But I also think with it being so close, it could be a very unpredictable season in the
Yeah,
midfield,
yeah,
which will make it more exciting for us. Not necessarily at the top, but midfield wise, I think could be very exciting.
Yeah. So I just say bring on the next Grand Prix.
Yeah. So this has been F1 Down Under. See you in the next video. Bye.